It is Friday, April 10th, 2026, and you are officially hanging out in CoeCast, where the robots touch the production, the humans kept the taste, and if anything gets a little unhinged, that is kind of the point. I'm Hunter.
And I'm Riley. Happy Siblings Day, by the way. So if you've got a sibling, text them something nice. Or at least something less chaotic than your last group chat. Also, yes, this whole episode was stitched together with an all-AI production stack, which feels very on brand for a show about automation and co-creation. Very little sleep, lots of workflows, beautiful decisions.
Beautiful decisions is generous. Today we've got a really interesting trio. Google is widening access to VO 3.1 and pushing VO 3.1 Lite as the cheaper cinematic option. ElevenLabs is making a big enterprise move with on-prem and on-device voice AI. And Adobe Firefly is basically saying, hey, what if enterprise creativity was less about chaos and more about control?
Which honestly is the most corporate fantasy ever. Not can we make art, but can we make approved art in 12 aspect ratios, with legal smiling in the corner.
That's actually the whole story. These are not just shiny model drops, they're workflow stories. They're about who can use this stuff now, where it can live, and whether it actually helps creators and marketers make better content or just more content.
Let's start with VO, because the timeline on X is acting like every brand intern is now Denis Villeneuve with a Canva login.
Yeah, and that's where I want to slow people down a little. Better generation does not equal better storytelling. VO 3.1 getting wider access matters because more teams can experiment with cinematic-looking spots, product videos, social hooks, maybe internal explainers. And VO 3.1 Lite matters because cost is usually the real blocker, not just capability. If you can get pretty great clips at a lower price, suddenly the team that could only justify one hero test can try 10 variations.
Sure, but hold up. That also means we're about to get an avalanche of gorgeous nonsense. Like, prettier filler. The internet does not need more moody slow-motion fruit exploding into particles because a beverage brand discovered prompts.
Totally fair. The bottleneck shifts fast. It stops being, can we generate this, and becomes, should we publish this? Creative judgment gets more valuable, not less. If your team doesn't have a strong concept, audience insight, and a reason for the visual style, cheaper cinematic clips just help you mass-produce forgettable work faster.
Thank you. Because people online are doing that thing where they confuse production value with meaning. A glossy shot is not a strategy. It's like putting movie trailer lighting on a weak idea. Congrats, your bad ad now has dramatic fog.
Dramatic fog sells on social, though.
Hunter.
I'm kidding, mostly. But seriously, for marketers, the practical win is iteration. You can concept faster, pitch better, mock up storyboards with movement, and test more lanes before committing budget to a full shoot. That's a real shift.
I'll give you that. Especially for lean teams. If you're a small brand or an agency trying to get client buy-in, being able to say, here's a cinematic version, here's a punchier version, here's a vertical social HUD. That's huge. It's less about replacing the film crew and more about compressing the ugly middle of pre-production.
Exactly. And this also fits the broader pattern we've been talking about all week. AI video is moving from wow demo culture into actual production utility. We talked recently about cleanup and consistency becoming more important than pure spectacle, and this sits right in that lane. Not every win is a mind-blowing short film. Sometimes the win is getting usable ad creative on time.
Also, side note, Google widening access right now feels strategic. Runway keeps pushing consistency. Other platforms are chasing creator love. Google's angle is becoming, hey, we've got premium-looking video, and we can make it easier to slot into broader business workflows. That's sneaky powerful.
Yep, and if more teams get access, the next bottleneck inside companies is probably not the model. It's approvals, legal, brand, and executive understanding. There is always one person who hears AI video and immediately imagines scandal, deepfakes, and the end of civilization.
To be fair, the internet is not helping. There was that weird Megyn Kelly clip people thought was a deepfake because the facial timing looked so uncanny, and it turned out to be real, which is almost worse. Reality is now losing the authenticity check to fake-looking reality.
That's the exact trust problem. As generation quality improves, provenance matters more. Teams need review layers, disclosure logic, and human sign-off. Not because AI is evil, but because audiences are already confused.
And creators are touchy about authenticity. We literally just saw an anime studio apologize after fans discovered generative AI was used in part of an opening sequence. The funny part is some people liked the visuals. The angry part was the lack of transparency. That's the lesson. It's not always the tool, it's the vibe of being sneaky.
100%. If you're using AI in creative production, especially audience-facing work, trust compounds. Hidden use can damage the story more than the asset helps it.
Okay, let's pivot to ElevenLabs, because this one feels less flashy and maybe more important. On-prem and on-device voice AI is not sexy in the same way as cinematic video, but oh my gosh, this is the kind of thing enterprises actually buy.
I agree. This is enterprise AI growing up. Privacy, lower latency, data control, compliance. Those are the words that get procurement out of bed in the morning. If a healthcare org, financial brand, or big media company wants voice AI but doesn't want sensitive data floating around the cloud, this changes the conversation.
But does it unlock adoption, or just make cautious buyers feel emotionally safer while nobody internally has an actual use case?
Both can be true. Safer infrastructure does not magically create strategy, but it does remove a major blocker. Before this, a lot of teams would say, cool demo, impossible policy fit. Now they can at least test serious use cases: dubbing, localization, internal training, customer support, branded audio, maybe dynamic content personalization.
And let's be honest, voice is weirdly intimate. People are much more sensitive about it. On X, the vibe I'm seeing is split. One group is like, finally, scalable multilingual audio without a production nightmare. The other group is like, awesome, every brand will now sound like an over-friendly airport kiosk with emotional intelligence.
That is a perfect summary. The risk with voice AI is sameness. If every company picks polished, synthetic, endlessly upbeat delivery, users feel it. The opportunity is not just speed, it's specificity. Better casting, better scripting, better localization, better context.
Yes, taste again. The real moat is not the model, it's whether your brand knows how it should sound. Some teams are going to use ElevenLabs to build thoughtful multilingual experiences. Other teams are going to create the vocal equivalent of beige wallpaper.
Beige wallpaper is also a lot of enterprise branding, if we're honest.
You said it, not me.
And this is where human plus machine really matters. AI can scale the voice layer, but humans still need to decide tone, where it's appropriate, what gets reviewed, and what absolutely should not be automated.
Like, apologies. Please do not automate your apology voice note. Humanity is still preferred there.
Strong agree.
All right, Adobe. Firefly is doing almost the opposite of VO. VO says, look at the cinematic magic. Adobe says, okay, but can I get the logo placement cleaner, the variant resized, the background fixed, and legal off my back?
Yeah, Adobe's story is precision. Precision flow, AI markup, quick image actions, custom model training with brand visuals. This is less about spectacle and more about operational creativity. For big teams, that matters a lot. They do not need infinite surprise. They need repeatable, brand-safe output.
Which sounds boring until you've had to make 32 asset versions for one campaign and somebody says the blue is not our blue.
Exactly. Firefly is leaning hard into commercial usability. Licensed training data, brand control, controlled edits. It's basically saying, we know your problem is not making one cool image. Your problem is shipping approved creative at scale.
And honestly, for most companies, less magic and more guardrails is exactly right. Creators online love open-ended chaos, but brand teams want reliability. They want to know what they can ship without starting a legal side quest.
Yep, though I do think there's a trade-off. More guardrails can mean less serendipity. If you only optimize for safety and consistency, the work can get sterile. So the smart move is using these tools at different phases. Open creative exploration where it helps, tighter systems where the business actually needs control.
That's the whole stack, right? Maybe VO 3.1 for concepting or premium visual tests, ElevenLabs for scalable audio with privacy, Firefly for the cleanup and brand discipline. Not one winner. More like choosing the right teammate for the right stage.
That's how I see it. And zooming out, the ecosystem this week has been pointing in the same direction. We've got stronger video systems, stronger voice systems, more agent talk, more commerce automation, and a lot of discussion around open versus closed tools. The pattern is that raw model power matters less than whether it fits a real workflow. Clean handoffs, human review, recoverable steps, cost awareness, that's what turns AI from demo theater into infrastructure.
Also, can we please mention the baseball AI hallucination because it's so perfect? An AI tool literally invented 2 legendary defensive games that never happened while looking into Joe Adell's stats. That is the ideal reminder that even when these systems sound confident, they can still go full improv theater.
Never skip verification, especially when the model starts sounding like a sports documentary narrator.
Or a brand strategist, honestly.
Fair. So if I had to sum this week up, I'd say Google is expanding cinematic generation into more practical reach, ElevenLabs is making voice AI more enterprise-ready, and Adobe is building for the part of creativity companies actually struggle with, which is consistency, control, and shipping.
And my version is, the tools are getting hotter, but the real flex is still judgment. Better taste, better systems, better transparency. Otherwise, you're just automating slop in high resolution.
That is a beautiful and slightly brutal place to end.
It's Friday. We tell the truth on Friday.
Thanks for hanging with us on CoeCast.
And happy Siblings Day again. Be nice to your sibling, or your metaphorical workflow sibling, which is probably the one automation that keeps your whole week from collapsing.
Don't forget to subscribe and check out coe.com/resources for AI news and updates.
Catch you next time.